But the thing is, though, I was a casual worker and I didn't have any sick leave, so I couldn't afford to be sick. So I couldn't afford to take any days off as sick leave. So I always smuggled some antibiotics.
Same here,
So
girl. Same here.
I could pop them and then, go to work the next day and not be sick.
I feel like maybe I would have wanted to maybe live together before we got married. And this is obviously very much against our brown culture, and like my parents and I have had this. I mean, I remember like when I was young and we used to go for weddings and I used to see like girls like crying, and I used to be like, why are they crying? Like, this is so depressing. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, why do I want to cry? Respecting the traditional custodians, we acknowledge the Turrbal and Kaurna peoples as the original inhabitants of the lands now known as Brisbane and Adelaide. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and recognise their enduring connection to the land, waters and culture. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 8 of Brown Girls Down Under. I'm Shanali.
And I'm Dashani. I'm joining from South Australia.
And I'm from Brisbane, Australia. And we're so glad to have you guys listening in. Thank you so much for your support over the last 8 episodes. We honestly can't believe how supportive everyone has been. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. How's your week been, Dash?
It's been very good. I think I thought because it's March now, I had hoped that it would be much cooler or at least get cooler, but no, it's just scorching sun.
Yeah, I've seen that you guys have been having 37, 39 degree days.
Yeah.
What's going on? My goodness.
I don't know. It was all 39 degrees all week, for me at least on site. But I think even in Adelaide it was quite warm. But
it's crazy. I feel like the tables have turned because in Brisbane, that's quite normal for Brisbane. And we've been having beautiful 28 degree days. Oh. Which I'm so happy, honestly. We almost died in summer, so this is really nice. But it's very different, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I don't know, either we're going to have a very warm winter or we're just going to have a cold winter for the rest of the year.
It's a global warming, sister.
But
global warming.
I don't know. I don't know what to expect. But but it's been good. It's been a very productive. I feel like the week went so fast, but
That's good.
Yeah, it's nice to come home to MJ picked me up from the airport this Thursday night, and then I feel like he's just on to this new thing. I think he's officially a dad now, because he's got dad problems. Yeah, without a kid, he's got dad problems. He's just got this new fixation where we've now been seeing a lot of, well, not a lot, just some ants in our house, and he's just I don't think he's done this much research about anything in his life. I don't think that he's done this much research in his uni project for his research. He knows how to, he has this concoction made of, I think vinegar and, I don't know what it was, toothpaste or something like that. And he's been spraying it all over the house, and he checks the house every 2 hours just to see if he can spot an ant. So that's that. So
I know. Okay, I really do feel his pain. I know that we said we're not gonna delve too much into our weeks and all that, but this is something that I can relate to with him. So I really need to talk about it. So when we moved into this house a few months ago, we had pest control come in and do all whatever they do to get rid of the pests, because we had ants, we had cockroaches, all that. But it's so funny to me, when I saw a freaking cockroach, I was like, oh my god, this place is so dirty, blah blah blah. And I'm back home in Sri Lanka, we had cockroaches everywhere. It was so normal.
And what's the is gecko the right word?
Gecko. Huna,
Yeah, we had so many of those.
I know. So this morning, last night, I saw a huna this size, a gecko, in our room. And I was ew, what the hell? What is this? Get it away from me. And then this morning, it was still in the room. And I was like, Ryan, look, there's a gecko on the roof. And he's like, so? Why are you surprised?
I've never seen geckos here or in Melbourne. I don't know if it's because of is it a humidity thing? But
are you guys on the ground floor or no?
No, we're
No.
we're on the first floor.
Because Ryan
so-
reckons it's because we're on the, like, because we're in a townhouse. So, like, obviously we're
Yeah.
close to the ground. Because when we were in our apartment, we never had that issue. But for some
Right,
reason,
okay.
it seems to be because
Oh,
like we have
interesting.
lizards and everything here. And I'm just not used to it because, like, I've been here for 8 years and we never really had those issues, you know? So,
Yeah, but then MJ's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill these ants." I'm like, "Leave the ants alone." Like,
but you guys
we're
can
not- it's
get
not the
pest
end of the world.
control. Like, can't you get pest control?
but it's
from-
not that many ants, Chanel. It's literally like 5. I've spotted 5 in this whole week. Like, it's not an issue. I don't know why. Like, he thinks it's an issue. It's just like 5 ants per, like, I don't know, 400.
Hey,
well, it's not
listen,
400,
okay?
200 square meters isn't that big.
The
of a
cost of
deal.
living is really high, and he just doesn't want to share his food. Okay.
He doesn't even eat sugar, that much sugar. And I'm like, just let the ants live.
But
okay?
did you
just
know
stop killing them?
that I found out? So when the pest control guy came, he gave me like a rundown of all the ants in Australia. So apparently
Wow.
the ants we have in our house are not ants that eat sugar. They're the ants that
Okay.
eat like fat and oil and meat.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're
so
onto
he-
the good stuff.
Yeah. So he was like, because the ants were like mainly around our stove area. And he was like, oh, it's because you cook with oils and stuff.
Oh,
So they
right.
tend to go for that. So it's like the light colored ants. Those are the ones that go for the fats.
Ah.
Whereas there are specific ones that go for sugar. And we don't have those at home. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't even know this. So, there you go.
Yeah,
more you
wow,
know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I think the ones we have are just attracted to sugar, I think.
Okay.
Because they're black colored tiny ones, the baby ones, I feel like. I don't know.
No, those are the
But-
ones that go for fat. That's what he said.
Oh,
Those are
are
the ones
they?
we have. Like the very tiny ones, the little.
Yeah,
They're super
right.
little.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he just that's his thing. That's been his thing.
That's
so
his
until winter,
hyperfixation.
yeah. Currently, our bin, like we have a bin that we have those bins where there's like a pedal,
Yeah.
and then it opens and then
Yeah.
there's like another tiny
Yeah.
container inside where you put the bin. Yeah. So currently we're just using the container inside the bin because the other bin has had ants on it, so it's outside doing its time. I'm not allowed to bring it inside.
It's on
because-
timeout.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm just gonna wait it out and hopefully pray to God that this will be done by the next week. But yeah, it's been my week. I have learned a
great.
lot about ants.
There you go. The more you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this week I think we're gonna answer some of your questions this week.
Thank you so
We've
much for the
gotten-
questions, by the way. We
Exactly,
did a couple
yeah.
of Q&A like posts.
I think
and
we've
we
got some really good
We
questions.
do. We got some
that
really good ones. Yeah.
Yeah, we're really keen on answering. So without any further ado, shall we get into it?
Yeah, sure. We should actually, before we start, I'm just going to address, we went through all your questions. And there are a couple of like kind of similar questions about basically living as a girl overseas and, the independent life, that kind of thing. We
Yeah.
thought that we will address that in a separate episode because I feel like we've got a lot of things to say about that. And because
Yeah.
it was asked quite a few times. So we'll talk about that on a separate episode and we'll address most of the other questions. There were a few like visa related questions that I
Yeah.
think I said in our last episode as well that we're not going to get too much into the whole visa thing because that is not our niche and
Yeah,
we
and
don't we don't want to give advice on it, especially when things
I think
are
there are
changing
better
so
people
much.
who are accomplished in that area and competent enough to give you professional advice.
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
We can redirect you to those people.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, just like very specific visa stuff, we are not going to really answer those because I don't think we're going to do a fair job in answering that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our circumstances are going to be very different to yours. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
Cool. All right. Get into the first question. I'm gonna
Sure.
start off with a light one. We don't need to share the person's name.
No,
do
we don't need
no,
to.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no.
So the first question is: moving to Melbourne soon. Any packing advice?
You're the one who moved to Melbourne, so
Yeah.
you can.
But then,
answer that.
yeah, okay. I would say, packing advice. Depends on what you're like. If you're coming as a student, it's different.
true.
But if you're coming here to work, it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But I guess in terms of like, I think the basic stuff. Melbourne's very cold, so make sure to pack a lot of thermals, I think, because you're gonna need it. I think my mom and I, we came here when, like, I think late February, when it was like a bit warm, but it was still very cold for us. We were still wearing like hoodies and jackets, so it was because your body temperature is not used to the climate. You're gonna
Exactly.
feel cold as soon as you get here, unless it's the peak of summer. But
Do you recommend people buying thermals and jackets and stuff from Sri Lanka, or do you think it's better for them to come here and buy it?
I think thermals, I think it's okay. I'm not too sure. I bought some good quality thermals from Sri Lanka, but when I went back to buy them, they weren't there. So
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if they still do have those thermals, but I think things like, I don't recommend buying puffer jackets from Sri Lanka because I don't think they're gonna give you the warmth that you need for the Melbourne climate.
Yeah.
So and they're not. I think if you have the money, I think you should invest in a good puffer jacket
Absolutely. Yeah.
and buy it from Australia because they're more suited for the climate.
Yeah.
Because then they aren't very cheap, are they? So I'd rather you buy like a good pair from here. And then I mean I think I would bring some like sweatpants, some hoodies, some jackets because you are going to feel cold when you first get here if you come in winter or just before winter. But I would recommend buying a good puffer jacket or like some good quality jackets from here. I think
Yeah.
you're gonna save money on that if you buy them
Do you
here.
recommend
'Cause,
any specific brands that anyone goes to?
look, I've got my trusty Kathmandu jacket,
Yeah.
but it's very common though. It's like everybody and their mom wears it. But it is quite warm though.
Warm,
So
yeah.
I would like I still have it. I still use it in winter, but it's just a pretty standard black jacket. So that's
Yeah.
kind of helped me through uni. And then I would like this is not something I thought I'd do, but I've experienced like once you cover like from a good scarf, like once you wear your puffer jacket and cover your neck with like a good scarf, that's gonna keep your body warm,
Warm,
like
it
really
does. Yeah.
well. But I didn't realize that covering your neck
Neck.
would do
Neck and
that
ears, I
much.
think, really makes a
Yeah.
difference. Yeah. And you get sick less because
Yeah.
I find in winter a lot of the times I get sick if I don't cover my ears and
Yeah.
neck. So definitely. And I think speaking of the brands as well, I would like this is a brand that has been around forever, but that I've recently discovered is Uniqlo. And I really,
Ooh,
really
yes.
love their quality and their like I bought a few gym
Yeah.
clothes recently from them and they're just so beautiful, like soft, like
And they
butter.
last very long
Exactly.
too.
And their prices are pretty
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
definitely I would recommend Uniqlo personally. And also like op shops. I think in Melbourne, if you really want to get like some
That's
winter
true.
clothes, go to like a really rich suburb and
Yeah.
look in their jacket section. I think you will find some like really good stuff for a really good price.
Nice.
So
That's
if
really
you
good advice,
yeah, if
actually,
you
yeah.
don't want to splurge on things or you don't want to get cheap quality stuff, definitely go because rich people give away a lot of things that
Yeah,
you and I
exactly.
wouldn't. So
Yeah.
definitely
We aspire to be
exactly to just
yeah.
give away Gucci and that kind of thing. Like so definitely.
Yeah, and
do
like
that.
really good like puffer jackets and really good jackets, they last a long
They do,
time. It's just that people wear them for a long time and they get sick of it and then they donate it or whatever. But they do last a very long time, and I do agree with you in the comment about Uniqlo. Yeah, MJ's recently discovered it. He's been loving it. He's just a full Uniqlo boy now.
Same.
But they do have like even their like loungewear and stuff like that. Their pajamas, they're soft as material.
Nice, yeah.
It's just so nice on skin, and
Yeah.
they do. And I've noticed they do also have they do some really good thermals as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're in Melbourne, I think if you're going to Melbourne, I think at least the first couple of years where your body's gonna get adjusted to the climate and the first winter is always going to be very
Very
hard.
tough, yeah.
So make sure to wear your socks, your scarves, and your thermals so you don't get sick.
Yeah.
Anything else I would pack? Obviously, I still remember the first time I came here, my mom packed me all the Sri Lankan spices. Like,
Yeah. There is
yeah,
no
I had
need
spices
in
for a whole
Melbourne.
year.
Yeah.
I didn't have to buy anything for a whole year.
Yeah.
So yeah, you track your, you always pack your Sri Lankan snacks or your spices and
But
things
don't
like
you
that.
think like in Melbourne there's so much availability of that stuff?
That is true. Like
Yeah.
if I were to do this again, I wouldn't ask
Yeah.
anyone
Like
to
if you were coming to Brisbane or like another
yeah,
state, definitely yes. But I feel like in Melbourne there's not really a
so
need
much.
for it
Yeah.
because there's like you literally have everything there, you know. I think
Yeah.
again, like sorry, I'm butting into your question, but if like because when I came as well, I brought a lot of medication that we couldn't really get over the counter here. So things like
Yeah.
Piriton and
Yeah.
antihistamines and
Yeah.
you know, certain things that are easier to get in Sri Lanka but not so much in Australia because you would require
Yeah.
prescription or something. You can bring
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I still have
And
Piriton that I brought from last
I
year.
don't know if I should say this also, but I also bought I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble
No,
for this, but
I feel like I know what you're gonna say, so just say it.
I bought like some antibiotics as
I
well,
know,
some
same here.
amoxicillin because
No, I did too.
in Australia, what I've noticed is like because it's the right thing to do as well in
Yeah.
Australia. The way they do it in Australia is the right thing to do because you're gonna have to let your body heal on its own. You're gonna
Exactly,
need
yeah.
it's your body it's your body's way of saying that you
Yeah.
need to rest and let your body fight
Yeah.
the produce the right amount of white blood cells
Yeah.
and produce the antibiotics so that your body it's better suited the next time you get sick.
Yeah.
But the thing is though, I was a casual worker and I didn't
Exactly.
have any sick leave, so I couldn't afford to be sick, so I couldn't afford to take any days off as sick leave. So I always smuggled some antibiotics
Same here,
so
girls. Same here.
I could pop them and then, go to work the next day and not be
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
But I do not recommend this anymore. I think
Yeah.
I think when you're a student, the things can be a bit different. But
Exactly.
now when I'm sick and I have sick days and I have sick paid leave for my
Yeah,
sick
you
days.
just- yeah.
So I take the days off now because
Exactly.
in when you go to a doctor's in Australia, they're like, you need to rest.
Yeah.
Take 9 days off and rest so your body can recover.
Just take like if you get a cold, like a flu, they're just like just take cold and flu tablets, which you can just
Yeah.
buy at Woolies, and just take that and just rest. And we have Samahan. I think a lot of Sri
Yeah.
Lankans take that, so that kind of thing, just like vitamin C
Yeah.
and just rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, if your body is used to antibiotics, and then bringing some from Sri Lanka is not illegal, but we do not
Yeah.
recommend it if you have other options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like what you said before, I think when it comes to snacks and stuff like that, and especially if you're coming to Melbourne, there's like, I don't know if you had the cream buns you have in Sri Lanka.
Yes,
You have them. You have
everything.
those in like grocery shops as well. So
Yeah.
you have everything. You have gold mari and all these
You have
biscuits that.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even more things you didn't even you're not used to eating in Sri Lanka anymore. We've
Yeah.
got that stuff in Melbourne, so don't worry about them. So yeah, and good luck with
Yeah.
everything to that
Definitely.
listener. So let's choose another question. So this one is this one is also a good one, I think. So someone said, could you please share a job-winning resume to apply to a job in Australia for someone who's recently moved to Australia? I think I've helped a few people with these resumes type of situations, but I think because I have had a lot of friends who recently moved to Australia, I've helped them quite a bit with their resumes. I think one thing, so I've never worked in Sri Lanka, so I'm not too sure how a resume or a CV should look. I know that it looks different because I've seen them. In Sri Lanka, the sort of resumes that people have used for their job applications and things like that is like they would have like a photo of you, like your photo on the resume, and they tend to look more colorful and pretty, which is like nice, but I don't think that really works in Australia. It's just more plain Jane. It's because I don't think what people don't realize is that, or they might not know, is that a lot of the companies, they don't personally look at your
No,
resume. It
they
just
don't.
get filtered through a system.
Exactly. It's
So
all
I
automated.
yeah, exactly. So I don't think it's the best idea to like, I don't know if we can share like a job winning resume, but I can certainly give you some tips
Tips,
that
yeah.
I did. I think applying for a job is more time consuming. It requires more time and effort than you would think, especially if you're a new graduate with not a lot of experience. I think what I did was like, you would every time, like even on LinkedIn and Seek, you go through you go through this, if I can speak
You
clearly,
okay?
you go through these jobs, and then you obviously save add certain things that you are interested in to your favorites. And then I would spend some time going through each job ad, and then make sure to highlight those keywords in that job ad,
Yep.
and then make sure to add those keywords into my
Into your
resume to
resume.
make
Yep.
sure. So you have to cater a different resume to each
Each
job
job. Yep.
advertisement. So
Exactly.
and that's what they search for when it gets filtered through. What they look for is those keywords if they're in your resume. That's how. And then after that, after they shortlist these resumes, that's when you would go to the next stage where someone would talk to you. So it's really
Yeah.
important to spend some time. You don't need to add a photo, you don't need to have a colorful resume or none of that. Just make it Times New, just the font can be Times New Roman. It could be very basic. Just limit it to 2 pages.
Yeah.
I think just have your education. I think in Australia, education is not even that important.
No.
All they look for is your experience.
Yeah.
So it's try to get experience in Australia somehow. But if you are struggling, make sure to use your existing experience, but to change it to match the keywords that are in the job description that
Yeah.
they've listed. That's been my trick. I think
Yeah.
that's what I would.
Yeah, I think also like a lot of the ads kind of tell you what exactly they're looking for. And if you can kind of shape your experience to address those particular like requirements that they have, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
then you are more likely to get selected. And also one thing that I like, when I moved here first, I was honestly just looking for like casual work.
Yeah.
And my uni, like that, my first uni had its own job bank, and one of the
Yeah.
counselors there, she looked through my Sri Lankan
Yeah.
resume, and my Sri Lankan resume was like 5 pages long.
Yeah.
And she was, and I so funny, in Sri Lanka, like I don't know if it's still a thing, but we used to have like our address, our birthday. Like
Yeah.
the only thing that we didn't have on there was our blood type. Okay. And
Yeah,
everything.
exactly.
So she literally went, she's like, no, 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 we don't need to know where you live. We don't know, we need to know how old you are. We just need your name and your phone number and email and your
Yeah.
LinkedIn if you want to put your LinkedIn. And then, like you said, everything else, all that
Exactly.
stuff.
I think
But-
when you're putting more information, you're just giving them more chances to not choose you. Or
Exactly,
like giving
yeah.
them to be more judgmental.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Which they
Because-
shouldn't be, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, this is something that is very sad. Like, I don't really even want to talk, like, say it, but I think it needs to be talked about. So, when it comes to our names, right, like Sri Lankan names, unfortunately,
Yeah.
are very cultural and very long, and
Long.
they're obviously beautiful. They hold a lot of meaning. But when it
Yeah.
comes to people here, unfortunately, depending on who is hiring you, like, again, it shouldn't be the thing, but they kind of tend to look down on people, or like I
they
don't know,
tend to go with the other option. pretty
exactly.
much.
Like if there is a difference between like Adam Smith and something Arachi, they would choose Adam Smith, you know? And
Yeah.
it really sucks that it happens, but it is the truth.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
are able to, so like for example for Ryan, he's got a really long last name. And then we kind of realized that he wasn't being chosen for a lot of things because of,
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a reason, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
just chose his first name, which is a very white name, and his middle
Yeah.
name, which is also kind of white. And then he
Yeah.
just uses his middle name as his last name. And
Yeah.
that worked, you know? So
Yeah.
it really shouldn't happen. But then
Happen.
if you think that is working against you, I have told people as well, like maybe shorten your first name to like a little bit of a nickname, because Everyone
Yeah.
knows Australians like to shorten everything, you know.
Exactly.
So if it's
Yeah.
something, you know, that could help you, like obviously later on you can fight it and be like, no, this is my name, call me
Yeah.
by my full name. But just for
Yeah.
you to get your foot in through the door, maybe just
Exactly.
use the like a shorter
Yeah.
name. And also use things like ChatGPT to your
Yeah.
advantage, you know, because ChatGPT is very helpful. Like the two, like we use
Exactly.
it in
Yeah.
our podcasting stuff as well. If you just give the right prompts and say, I need a resume that covers these areas and addresses these questions, and then it could do up something, or at least even give you like a skeleton of a resume where you can just, you know, work on that after. But I think the main takeaways would be to use those keywords
Words.
and
Yeah.
keep it short and basic and talk more about your experience.
Yeah. And what
And
your achievements are from
yeah,
each role.
and
Yeah.
don't ramble on because they don't care
Yeah.
about your ramble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think with to add a little bit more context to what you said about like having a white name or like a more name that's easy to pronounce or something like that is that because as much as experience and the education is important to you, another thing that's very important to Australian workplaces is how you adjust into their workplace,
Yeah.
how you're going to work with the existing team, if
Yeah.
you're going to have the right attitude. So if they think you might have, because that's the thing, right? When you read someone's a description on a piece of paper, you're not going to know what this person is actually like. You don't know how culturally well spoken they are, or
Yeah.
how long they've been in Australia. Like, they don't know that. But I think don't give them the chance to discriminate.
Exactly.
It is discrimination, I agree, but I also understand what their doubts are, what they,
Yeah.
when like a place they're coming from. It's just that, just to get, like what Shanali said, just to get your foot in the door, I
Door.
think it could be something you could do. You could try that.
And it's like an unconscious bias, I think, most of the times.
Exactly,
It's like
yeah.
when they've grown up with certain things. I mean, we've had the same experience, right? You grow up with certain ideologies and things that have been put into your head. Then you obviously make a conscious decision to grow out of it. But sometimes it's still stuck in your head, like
Yeah.
in some of the tissue somewhere, it's still stuck in there,
Exactly.
you know? So
Yeah.
just try and avoid any opportunity for that to happen.
Yeah.
And once you're in and once you've proved yourself, you can just be
Exactly.
like, actually, you know what, this is my full name and I would like to be addressed by this, you know?
Exactly. And what a resume is essentially is to get a tool that's gonna get you an interview. That is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
After you get the interview, no one's gonna look at your resume.
No.
Literally. So yeah, I think those so hopefully those tips and tricks is valuable and you could use some of them. And yeah, and all the best with your job hunt.
Yeah,
I
good
guess.
luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, so moving on to a little bit more juicy questions, I would say. I've got a question. I think Shanali would be more suited to answer this because I haven't got much experience with this, but long distance relationships, are they worth pursuing?
Who asked this question?
No, I don't know. I don't know if I can say it. Someone will know.
The person who asked this question, you know who you are.
Yeah. But yeah.
Is it worth pursuing? I think that's obviously a very subjective question. and-
Exactly.
Yeah, and like when Ryan and I did long distance, I mean, this was like 8 years ago, it was very different, you know. Like I was a different person back then, and I have grown a lot in the 8 years, and same with him. He has grown.
Yeah.
But I think when we started doing long distance, it was like, I think I've said this before, but it was never a question of, or like, you know, is this going to like work out?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know if we're going to.
So you already had a well-established relationship before you got into the point of long distance.
Not really. See, the thing is this, right? Like we started dating in like February 2015, and then he moved to Australia in June 2015. So we didn't really have a lot of time to.
Oh,
really
it's the
get
same
to-
year. Okay.
Yeah, same year. It was very quick. But at that time, I think we were just like, no, like it's somehow going, like we're gonna make it work. We're definitely gonna
Okay.
make it work, kind of thing. And then
But did
obviously
you
I moved to.
know at that point that you were also gonna move? Like, was it
No, I
certain?
didn't. I
Ah,
wanted
okay.
to, but there was
Yeah.
no like dead set. Like nothing was set in stone.
So was it already so in the same year? Were you certain that you were gonna move to Australia as well, or?
Well, I wanted to move, but there was nothing set in stone. But then
Mm,
after he moved is when I kind of got the ball rolling. And in
mm,
November 2015 is when I moved. So I think when I was like at that age, I think I like both of us were just like, no, we're gonna make this work somehow, long distance or not, it's going to happen. So because of that, we kind of move forward with that ideology. But then
mm.
I think now who I am as like I don't know how to say this without coming off, the
I know
wrong
what you
way.
mean.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like if I was like in that position now, I feel like I would just be like, maybe not. Like
Okay.
I feel like maybe I would have wanted to maybe live together before we got
Hmm.
married. And this
Right.
is, this is obviously very much against our brown culture. And like my
Yeah.
parents and I have had this. I mean, like the main reason I didn't really live together is because of my parents.
Yeah.
And I know they're listening and I know they're
Yeah.
watching. But I've told them this before as well, if
Yeah.
things
I
were.
think a lot of parents now, like I feel like even now, my parents understand the importance of it and how
Mm,
it can be beneficial. But
yeah,
at the same time, I think they think that because, we have an established relationship. But if we were to
yeah,
like, I don't know, break up and then they probably wouldn't have approved. But I think
yeah.
as you grow up, I have enjoyed having these very adult conversations with my parents, and I think
Mm,
I'm able to convince them, and they
definitely.
agree with most of them.
Yeah.
But I
Because
also
I feel like,
understand.
yeah, I feel like back in the day, I wasn't at that position to have those
Yeah.
conversations with them because
Yeah.
I had just moved out from their home
Yeah, right.
to this country. So I wasn't in a
Yeah.
position to have that kind of adult conversation. Whereas now I would be able to have those
Yeah.
adult conversations.
And
But
they're doing it
also,
for the first time too, right? So they're gonna have
exactly.
all
And I
these
was
doubts and
yeah,
they're
I
gonna
was the
be
first child to leave home.
exactly.
So I get
All
that. But then
right.
also, on the flip side of it, I am glad that we did it because I was able to grow into, because I lived alone and I was
Yeah.
able to grow into a person like maybe I wouldn't be the same person I am if I didn't have that. I'm not sure. Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
straight
I
away
agree.
went from Sri Lanka to moving in together and living together, then you kind of become kind of dependent on that person for certain
Yeah, you
things.
tend to be codependent on each other
Exactly,
and it's not very
exactly.
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so because like, and obviously when you're at a young age, then you tend
Mm.
to do that more. But I didn't
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
have that. Like I kind of
Yeah.
had the space to grow. Not that Ryan restricted my growth in any way, but
Yeah.
still, like I had that space to grow and do what I wanted, while
Yeah.
also having the stable relationship behind me.
Figure out your
So
individuality a bit
exactly,
more.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think asking, is it worth it, is like a bit of a tough question because it really depends on, like you said, I remember you said that you are not the kind of person who can do a long distance
Yeah.
relationship with. Like it's
Exactly.
not something that you can do.
With my communication skills, I don't think it'd be
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah.
But I think, is it worth pursuing if your bond is so strong and you really
Mm.
have you really want to make it work? I think you can. Like everything,
Yeah.
like anything in life,
Mm.
relationships require a lot of time and effort put into them
Mm.
to be successful and to thrive. So I think if you're it depends. And I think instead of like worrying about whether this is worth pursuing or not, I reckon just do it, because
Mm.
at the end of the day you're only going to regret things that you didn't do,
That you
right?
didn't do. That's true.
So
Yeah.
yes, it may result in heartbreak and all those things, but you'd
Mm.
learn something from it, right?
Absolutely. I
You'd learn
agree.
what not
Yeah.
to do for the next
Yeah.
relationship. I reckon, yeah, just do
Just
it.
go with the
And
flow. Yeah.
exactly, and we're only we only have so much time left, right? So
Mm.
just, yeah, I guess I think, yeah, stop worrying about like stop worrying and wondering whether you should do something and just do it. And I think I should take this
Definitely.
advice myself as well.
No, I
But
mean it's only human to kind of
Exactly. You know.
be into like two sides and be like, oh, what if? But then, like you say, you
Exactly.
just regret
Yeah.
what you don't, like the
I
steps you
think
don't. And like
it's
the worst that can happen is like you break up, like that's it. And
exactly,
then
yeah.
you learn from that and you move on, right? So,
Exactly. And I think what I think people tend to forget is that I think it's also something, I think it's something to do with our culture as well. We, like, our parents want the best for us, obviously, but we're always told to be more careful with our decisions. So, because it's more, and we're taught to analyze all the risks involved in every
yeah.
decision we make, but we also need to understand that failure is okay. Failure, like, it's okay to make mistakes. You
Yeah.
learn something from the failure, and you need to
That's the
fail
thing.
to
Yeah.
do, like, to succeed you need to fail.
Yeah.
So whether it's relationships, whether it's jobs,
Yeah.
whether it's education, it's okay to fail. I think there's this taboo on failing, and I think, and I feel that too, because that's why I'm so scared to fail. I'm so scared to try most things because I'm so scared of failure. And I think we need to get rid of it. And it's just like, need to just go head first to something, and then if it fails, yeah, so what? What's the worst thing? So I think, yeah,
Like
what
you're not gonna die, right? Like if you're, I mean, if it's
exactly?
something like life and death, maybe think about
Yeah,
it. But
maybe reanalyze, take a step
like
back,
if you're planning
analyze the
on jumping
situation.
off like a building without any safety key,
Yeah,
maybe just have a little thought about it.
yeah, but everything else, if it's not between life and death, I think it's
Exactly.
okay to fail.
It's okay.
Failure
Yeah.
is normal. Failure is necessary for you to
Yeah.
improve and succeed in life. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's our advice. I don't know if that's helpful,
I don't know
but
if we answered the question.
I don't know. But I think, yeah, just do it, man. Just do it.
Just do it. Just do
Yeah,
it. And
exactly.
tell us who it is
Yeah,
that we
give
want
us
to know.
yeah, let us know how it goes. All right, so the next question is also on the same sort of wavelength, I feel like. So, ideas on marriage and having a wedding. So, maybe you should go first, seeing that you've done both.
Again, I think, oh my gosh, like I feel like in the last like 8 to 10 years, I have changed
Yeah.
so much as an individual that
Yeah.
like so many things, like if you asked me when I was in my early 20s about all these things, I would have said completely different things. And now I would say things that are completely like my priorities have changed. I have changed, everything has changed. So
Yeah.
marriage and what was it? Marriage and weddings, right?
Having a wedding.
Having
Yeah.
a wedding. So I
Two
think
completely different things.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Independent from each other, but yeah,
But I
not
think
so much in our culture.
exactly,
but yeah.
exactly what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. Yeah, I think in our culture it's like the same. So I think as girls, especially like growing up from the time we're young, we're kind of given this idea of like, oh, marriage is like the destination, like a wedding.
It's the end goal.
It's
Yeah.
the end goal, yeah. And then like I used
Yeah.
to, I remember like when I was young and we used to go for weddings and I used to see like girls like crying, and I used to be like, why are they crying? Like this is so depressing. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, why do I want to cry? And I used to, I
exactly.
remember asking, I think I have this like very random memory of going for a wedding and this bride was bawling her eyes out. And I think I was about maybe 5 or 6 and I was asking, I'm like,
Oh,
why is
okay.
she-
I was like, oh, this
why?
is not something I want to
Yeah.
do.
And then my mom's like, no, it's because she's leaving her like family. So I was like, why is she leaving her family? Like, where is she going? Like, I just didn't understand.
Yeah.
But that being said, on my wedding, I cried. And I cried
Yeah.
when I did my dance with my father. Because that
Aw.
particular song, it's a song, it's by Sunil. Who's that guy? Duwe Numa Praga Pranaya. I don't know if you've heard that song.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's
yeah,
like a very emotional song. And my
Yeah.
dad used
It
to.
is, yeah.
It is. And he's like, I'm very close to my dad. So he used to send me this song every time he heard it and kind of quote the lyrics on it because he really wanted me to know that that's how he felt about me.
Oh,
And
that's
like
so
to
sweet.
this day, I know to this day, like after my wedding, I still haven't listened to that song because it just makes me cry every time.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
of
that's
course,
why I
yeah.
cried mainly on like my wedding day
Yeah.
while dancing. That's why I cried.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically when you're young, you're told like, oh, you know, you need to, like, this is the final goal for a woman, all this kind of thing. And we kind of grow up
Yeah.
with that as well, you know, like, oh, you
Yeah.
know, we can't wait to dress in this beautiful white sari or dress or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, like I kind of had that same kind of goal. And then when my friends would talk about it, like, you know, I had the same kind of thing. But then after, like, you know, I got married. So when I was getting married, I was actually really wanting like a small intimate wedding.
Mm.
But I wanted, like, I had a few things that I had prioritized, which was like I really wanted a good photographer, good music. That was like two
Yeah.
things that I really, like, I didn't even care about the husband, you know. I was just like music, music and photography.
We'll just decide that on the day.
Yeah.
That's not important.
If
Let's
he
just-
shows
yeah.
up, if he shows up, great. But otherwise, I just want a party.
It's
you know?
just like it'll be my day. I'm the
And
star.
it was like everyone who was there will tell you. Like I literally didn't talk to any guest. I was just dancing the whole time.
And that's how it should be, in
was-
my
and, like,
opinion.
Ryan
You're
was-
supposed to enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ryan was like, I couldn't keep up with you. Like you were just dancing and dancing and dancing. I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, but then obviously as the only girl in the family, like my parents kind of had
Yeah,
this
it's
thing,
special.
like, you know, or it's like the only kind of big wedding. Like it's all about
Yeah.
like our culture, you know, like how girls are kind of, the girl's family has the wedding and then they invite all these
Yeah.
people. So anyway, I was like, okay, fine. Like I've accepted that that's what's going to happen and that's okay. But
Yeah.
non-negotiables for me are the photographer and the music. And I got both the people that I really wanted, which I was very happy about. But then after that is when the reality comes in, right? Like you get to, like you have to live with this person. And
No,
it's like,
no, I just wanted a wedding, not an actual
it's like,
husband.
no,
Now
didn't-
what do I
didn't-
do with
I
the
didn't
husband?
sign up for this, guys. Like, what do you mean? Who is this person? You know. But then
Can I just have the wedding and not the husband?
yeah, you know, and I think that's what like kind of Ryan and I kind of struggled with in terms of, because we had both kind of lived separately as individual
On
people,
your own.
and then we come together and we have to, like, we all have these like responsibilities, and then you have to kind of be emotionally responsible for someone else as well.
Exactly.
So, and then also look after
Yeah.
yourself. And I think we struggled a little bit there because it was like, even though, like, because obviously we were doing long distance, you know, and then all of a sudden, like,
Yeah.
in close proximity to each other and just, you know, breathing the same breath and the air. And it's just like,
Yeah.
stop breathing.
And then they have their
something.
own habits, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're like experiencing.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh,
okay.
am I meant to be okay with all these habits? You know, like I'm not okay with it, you know? So, and I think no one really prepares you for that. Like, no
Yeah.
one has those discussions with you. Like, we went for this stupid, because we had to have a church wedding. We went for this stupid
Yeah.
classes that we had to do. Like, I think they're called like
Right.
pre-con.
I've heard about
Yeah,
this.
and oh my god, like those classes on its own were the most cringe, most like absurd classes. Like they were literally.
Is it just you and Ryan?
And no,
or,
there were
like,
other
were you-
couples,
Oh my god.
But also the thing is, we
like a-
couldn't get classes in Colombo because we obviously went from Australia, so we went very close to the wedding, and we couldn't get
Oh.
classes. So I feel like if we had classes in Colombo, maybe our experience would be a little bit different because obviously Colombo is more like metropolitan and people are a little bit more open-minded. Whereas we
And
had
this
to-
is mandatory for you to have a
you
church
have
wedding?
to. If you want a church wedding, you
Oh.
have to. And I mean, I was not, like, I didn't really care about a church wedding, but my mom really wanted a church wedding. So I was like, okay,
Right.
fine. So anyway, we had to go for this class in Jaila, which was like a little bit out of
Okay.
Colombo.
Far.
And it was like a singular, like a class. And
Yeah.
the couples, there were, I think, 4 or 5 other couples. And the people who conducted these classes, oh, like you could tell, like they were from like the Stone Age, you know, like the things that they were saying just blew my mind. Like they were having like sex education, like they were basically like
Okay.
breaking down every little thing. And Ryan was
it
literally
uncomfortable?
Yes, Ryan was holding my hand so tight. He's like, don't say anything, don't make a scene, calm down, it's okay, we don't have to do what they tell you to do. Like they were
Oh my
I
god.
know, they were saying things
But
like,
do you think it's well was it good sex education?
No, of course
Oh, okay then.
not.
That
You
defeats
should-
the purpose. I'm just saying, I'm just comparing the other religion where still you don't ever get anything like in
No,
that sort
because
of. But I'm
this
just
guy,
thinking
this
it's.
woman was basically saying like this is like one thing I remember. Like everything was just coming out of one, going into one ear and coming out of the other side because I was like, I was
Oh.
so angry. And it's so funny. Ryan actually on that day he was putting updates on my Facebook. He took my phone and he was updating my Facebook about the things that I was doing, and all my Facebook friends were really engaged in all our posts because he was just making a joke out of it. And like he
Yeah.
was like, you know, oh, Shanali's eaten all her snacks. Now she's trying to attack the person who is talking. What do I do, guys? Like that kind of thing. He was just being silly. Anyway, this lady was saying, oh, you know, you only have sex if you want to have a child. Like that's the only thing that should come out of that. You shouldn't be doing it. And like why? Like, and then she was like, you know, if you get married, you have to have kids. Like why do you get married at all? Kids are the only thing that come out of them. Like
Oh wow.
absurd shit like that. And then she was very misogynistic. She was very
Right.
sexist. She was very homophobic. Like everything that goes
Wow.
against who I am. And I was the only person in a rage, which is what was even more disappointing to me because everyone else was just like,
Right.
and I was like,
Mm.
no, this is not okay. Like, why is no one trying to fight her? You know? And
Yeah.
Ryan was like, Shanali, we've only
Wow.
got like 10 days. You need to calm down. We need to get this done so we can leave. Like,
So
stop.
how many classes altogether?
It was like a 1 day thing. I think they like did a
Oh,
crash
okay.
course for us. I don't know. Anyway, but obviously, like, nothing that they said stuck. Like, we didn't like adhere to. Even if
Right.
they said anything good, I think it just went over my head because like I was just so
Yeah.
angry the whole time. Anyway, this is
Mm.
not the question that was asked, but I just went on a little rant.
But it's more entertaining. Who cares about the question?
But
This is
yeah, I
better.
think marriage and a wedding, I like if you were to ask me the question now, I think
Yeah.
a wedding is not essential,
Mm.
and it is kind of a thing that you can customize according to, if it is something that you want, according to
Yeah.
what you want, like your
Mm.
budget, your group, like your circle of friends and family. Like it's not like in our culture it's very much a show off kind of thing, you know, you do
Yeah.
it for other
I think
people, not really for
I think that
yourself.
people are now forgetting, like the trend nowadays, it's like you forget what the true
Exactly.
intention
What the
of having a
true,
wedding
yep,
is. It's like
yep.
people coming together to celebrate your relationship and give you the blessings for a good marriage and a very successful future ahead. That's the basis of it. And I think it's also, I think what I agree with what you said, and I also have this some maybe not controversial but non-traditional ideas and views on a wedding and a, I don't know about a marriage, um but I agree with what you said. I think that, so that is the basis of that is what a wedding should be. But at the same time, I think my personal favorite bits from like a wedding is like the bits where I think it's, for me, what I've enjoyed the most in the weddings I've been to is the bits where like the groom and the bride gets together and thank their parents for what they've done. And I think that's very emotional, and that I appreciate that much because I know it's, the parents do a lot for their kids, especially in our culture. So it's nice to acknowledge all of that. And it shouldn't be just on this day, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying in a place of celebration, in a moment of celebration, it's nice to acknowledge all they've done for you and appreciate them in front of everyone as well. And I love that. That's my favorite bits from
Yeah.
the actual weddings and celebrations. But um, yeah, and I think my current situations, like MJ and I met here, and we've pretty much done a lot of like from uni. I think from the days of uni, we've had our meals together, we've done our laundry together, we've cleaned houses together, we've worked together.
Yeah.
So we've done so much together. So um it's just like pretty much, I feel like I've grown up with him almost, like my young adult life or my early adult life. I feel like I've spent a lot of time with him, and we just, and I think that's definitely like I feel like I would have found it challenging, or I would have struggled as well if we were to be separate for the most of well, at least the early adult life, and all of a sudden we got married and now
Yeah.
we have to get accustomed to each other's habits.
Yeah.
I think that's something I would have struggled as well, because given that I have a bit of a bold personality and a a very direct approach as well.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why it has worked well with us is because we've spent a lot of time. We had some time to get used to each other.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's helped. And when it comes to wedding, we've never had a wedding.
Really?
But really. But no, but it's something that my mom pushed definitely for a long time, because given that we're both the oldest kids in our family,
okay. Yeah.
and it would have been the first wedding in in both of our families, so that would have been very special to them.
I
But
think
I
your
had to
sister
put
beat
my
you to it, right?
exactly, and I love it. I love it.
It's like, thanks for
I'm
taking
all
one for
for
the
it.
team. Yeah.
Exactly. But like I have nothing against weddings or anything. It's just never been like growing up since like I was a young girl. I know like a lot of girls dream of having the most beautiful, the most elegant wedding, and there's nothing wrong with it, and it's beautiful and it's really precious and very pure, and I'm all for it. But for me, that has always been like a house. For me, I used to dream of having the dream house and having a place for myself. I've never been someone who's overly obsessed with having a wedding and all of that. And for the longest time, I didn't even think I would have a partner. I didn't even think I would have a boyfriend or a husband or anyone. And I was quite comfortable with it. I was happy with it. Like I used to dream of having a life like I would, Shani, when you're like 26, 27, you're going to have this apartment or a house to yourself, and you're going to have a golden retriever.
I
You're
love
going to go to work. You're going to come home and go on hot girl walks with your dog.
So
That's
cute.
that's I remember when I was like 15, 16ish, I would go to bed knowing that I want to dream this. Like this is the dream that I'm gonna have. And I think
Oh my
I don't know if
God.
that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I used that was my dream.
Yeah.
And now instead of a golden retriever, I have MJ, which is I'm not complaining
Oh, it's
about
also
it.
a golden
But-
retriever.
Yeah. But that's been that for me. So I've never been super obsessed with weddings anyway, but I do understand why people like it. It's it's a moment of celebration and can be fun. But at the moment, I think I have other priorities in my life at the moment. So wedding's not on the cards yet, but I might do it maybe like after I
Maybe.
get a house and things like that. But
Right.
I do have things I want to achieve
Achieve
before a
that.
wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that. So I'm super grateful for my parents and MJ's parents for understanding that.
Absolutely. That is really good. Like coming from a brown culture, that's almost like I think I have asked you guys this question so many times. Like, how do you manage to live together and not have like your parents? Because like I know for a fact if Ryan and I were living together, my parents, everyone else's parents would have so many questions and opinions about it. And it's so impressive that your parents are not pressuring
Yeah.
you to do that.
Yeah, and I think we have registered our relationship. We've done all the I don't know, legal stuff
Legal,
that
yeah,
needs to be
legalities,
done.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just that we just haven't had a wedding.
Wedding,
That's
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much it. Which is something we would do in our own time, in our
Exactly.
own accord.
Yeah, that's
the
the
way
thing.
we want to in
I
future.
think you like to answer this question. I think what you need to realize that is the timelines that people have set on relationships and weddings and marriages are very customizable, and you shouldn't do it
Yeah.
because someone else did it at a certain point in their life, or your friends
Yeah.
or your cousins or whoever did it when they were like 23 or something, so you feel the pressure to do it and you'll just marry anyone for the sake of it, so just so that you can tick that box. I think that is
Yeah.
really important to realize that it's not a box to tick, because
Yeah.
if you know you are obviously going to live like marriage, the whole thing is okay, you're with this person for the rest of your life. The rest of your life is a very freaking long time.
Long time,
Like,
yeah.
especially
And it's a very important
it
decision.
is, yeah. Like in this day and age when people are living to close to 100, like if you want to be with this person like till that time, it's so long. Like, trust me,
Yeah,
they're really annoying. So just have a really
exactly.
good think about it. And like
Yeah.
if it,
And pick
if,
someone who you can, be with or like not
yeah,
be annoyed with or you
yeah.
yeah.
And also
Sometimes
like,
it comes down to the very simple things.
yeah. And also I
Yeah.
think like this is another thing that I have, like as time goes, like I have realized is at certain points in your life, you are a different person, right? And then you kind
Yeah.
of need to have a partner who kind of has similar kind, like has had similar growth, or is willing to accept your growth without bringing
Mm.
you down to the
Mm.
previous spot. You know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah,
has
I
to
do
be
understand.
someone you
Yeah.
can go through all the stages of life with, and you can still
Yeah.
tolerate each other. Like,
Yeah.
obviously you're not going to grow in the same kind of way, but if you are able to
Mm.
tolerate that person, you know, through their stages of life without bringing
Yeah.
them down, then that is
And
like a
support
partnership.
them.
Yeah, that is a
Yeah,
partnership,
exactly.
I
A
think.
companionship. And I don't know if this is the case yet. I don't think this is the case anymore. But back in the day, like it used for for a girl in our culture, marriage is the ticket to freedom, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
this, so
Mm.
yeah, if you say, "Oh, I want to go to Bali with my friends," like you can't do it when you're
When you're
married. You can
married,
go
you can
there
go with your
with your
husband.
husband.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um. So I think it's really important, and I think that's why people rush into these things. Like sometimes
Exactly.
you just want to be
Yeah,
free,
you just want to be
but the
free.
only way to be free
It's getting
is
married.
with
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think that I'm so glad that I hope that that's not the case anymore.
Mm.
So that is why it's really important to so that is why I think, oh, this is a I think this is a we're going on a big tangent there, but I had this discussion with my mom as well.
Yeah.
And look, I love MJ and love all that he does, but then, and also a lot of people say to me, something that people say to me all the time is like, oh, you're so lucky to have someone like MJ. He cleans up the house, he cleans the kitchen, he helps you cook and all of this. And I'm like, as he should.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like, I love that he does that, and I love and I appreciate him, but not for the things
He should be
not for
doing.
those things.
And it's not
Not for those
helping.
things.
It's not really helping. He's actually doing his part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think people should just raise their standards, and I'm not actually lucky. I just have good standards.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not going to
true.
appreciate someone for doing the bare minimum.
Minimum, exactly.
Like I think this is something a lot of girls in our culture, a lot of people needs to understand. You need to raise your standards. You don't need to lower yourself just to find like having a person who's not supportive, who does not share the same ideologies and same goals is
Yeah.
not better than being alone. Being alone,
Oh,
being yourself
absolutely.
is so much better than having the wrong person
I
with
agree.
you.
Totally.
So I think I do appreciate MJ for all his emotional capabilities and all his loving personality, the fact how his how he cares for me. Those are the things that I appreciate him for, not for like cleaning the house and things
Yeah,
like that. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And I'm not, and I think everybody should aspire to have a partner and have higher standards. Like it's not the case anymore. This is the 21st century. You're not gonna appreciate a man for cleaning the house. And yes, it should be done when like you should give the credit when it's due. Like let's say you both are tired and you're picking up after yourself, and so like it's not always going to be 50-50. Sometimes it's going to be 80-20, sometimes it's going to be 60-40. That's why it's a partnership. That's why it's a
Exactly.
companionship.
Yeah.
So that's why I was talking about my mom, like, but she was saying when she was growing up, she worked, she cleaned the house, she cooked for the kids, she made sure the kids do their homework, and she thought that was what's expected of her,
Oh, yeah.
because that's the society she grew up in.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have to be the case anymore.
No.
But yeah, and I think, and I'm really lucky. I am really lucky to have a partner who has that same ideologies that I do,
Yeah.
who understands that it's both of our responsibilities to get these things done.
Yeah.
And it's not just a woman's place that's the kitchen, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's what I'm looking for, not
Because
the
no
other
one
things.
thanks
But
you for going out and
exactly.
earning money,
No
right?
one thanked my mum for working
Yeah.
and cooking
Yeah.
and, feeding us.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I saw this
exactly.
post somewhere, I don't know where it was, but it said like the biggest scam of the century is that women being expected to go to work or something, right? So when I read it, I was like, what? But then I read more into it and I was like, oh, actually that's true, because what they mean is, yeah, like a woman is goes to work, but then she's also expected to do every single other thing at home. So of course that's a scam, because you are
Mm,
literally doing the job of two people there. Like at work you're doing
exactly.
one person's job, and then you come home and you're doing like the homemaker's job.
Yeah.
Whereas men just had the opportunity to just
Yeah.
go and just be the breadwinner and come home and
Yeah.
relax. There was no
Exactly.
expectation
Yeah.
set on that. And again, we are going into the whole tangent of the feminism, which we said we're going to talk
Yeah.
about it. we
Yeah.
we didn't say we didn't promise that we're not going to bring this up, guys. But like,
Yeah.
so we'll try not to get too much into it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
a partnership. It is, like you say, it's not going to be 50-50 all the time, but there are certain expectations. You need to raise your standards. The bar needs to be set up
Mm,
high, where
yeah.
basic things like cleaning up after themselves or doing the dishes is not a like something to applaud them. It's just,
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
babysitting the kids is not, it's
Exactly.
not
It's not
something
another
to,
project you should work on.
no, it's
Yeah.
your freaking
Yeah.
kids. You had a part in it, so you need to play your part.
Yeah.
So
On record though, I would like to say my father does cook
mm, good
before
on
I
him.
get yeah, and he is a better cook than my mother now, and he does help out a lot. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I
but
mean, I
yeah.
think I was very lucky in terms of my dad was very, very involved in us
Mm,
growing up. Like, even though, like, he had his own business. So he did have time to invest
mm,
in us. But even from the time we were kids, my mom is very vocal about this. She says how
mm,
she used to just feed us and go to sleep, whereas he would stay up and
yeah.
burp us, change our nappies, make sure we slept. Like, he was a very, very, very good partner. And I remember,
Mm,
like, he used to mop and clean the house every single day after work. And it used to annoy us because he used to make sure we put our feet up and, like, we don't step on the ground while like that
aw.
kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my God. But, like, now looking back, I'm like, wow, that was like, and we had help at home. We still had a maid, we
Yeah.
had a driver
Yeah.
and stuff, but he still did more than his part. And that's what we
Mm,
grew up with, and I know that my brother, like, he's married and he has a child now, and he has taken up after my father, and he does a
yeah.
lot of the stuff that he saw my dad doing, so
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing, and I think that's something we should take on in our generation as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, I think that's really lovely that you mentioned that, and
Mm.
that's setting the right um ideals. Like
Yeah.
that's setting the right tone,
Mm.
and a great, what do you call that? Great example for your
Mm.
kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why your brother doesn't think that it should be just, his wife
Wife.
doing all these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
He has grown up watching his dad do
Yeah,
this.
because it's
So I think
normal.
that's,
It's been normalized. Like,
yeah.
the thing is, what we need to realize is your partner not doing that is not normal. Them doing
Yeah.
it is normal. That's
Normal.
what
Yeah.
the expectation is. Not doing
Yeah.
it is when we should be like, ooh, okay, what's going on? Why are you not doing this?
Exactly.
That kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, good
did
chat.
we actually even answer the question? I don't even know.
I think, yeah, there wasn't like I don't think there was like a set question. It was just like more our thoughts and
Mm.
views on weddings
So
and
there you go.
marriages and things like
You got
that.
a lot of our thoughts.
Yeah. We have another question that's very common, and I get asked this all the time. So it's, let me know about the career in engineering as a girl, especially in mining engineering. How a girl can adopt? Is it too hard for a girl? And by the way, love the podcast series. Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
But I get asked this question a lot. Um, is it let me know about the career in engineering for girls. Okay, I think back in the day, I think long time ago, um, I think this was still a very relevant question because engineering at the time, or maybe a little still, is a very male dominated
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we've grown and evolved so much, and there's a good female representation in engineering now, um, in all different industries of engineering.
Yeah.
And I don't personally, I'll only speak to my experience. I've have never found it out of place, or I've never felt like I've been discriminated in any way. So I would highly recommend it. And it's extremely rewarding and stimulating, and I do really enjoy it. Um, but I also want to point out that I've been really lucky to have wonderful workplaces, people who's invested so much in my in my professional growth, and I think that I don't, and I think that's normalized now. I think a lot of workplaces are have come a long way. They've not always been that, but they've come a long way in creating a workplace that's safe for all types of people. It's not just males and females anymore. There's so much more, so many different types of people involved, so much diverse in the workplace now. So I think it's been such a rewarding industry, such a fulfilling, and yeah, such challenging, but in a good way. So highly recommend. But you also asked about mining industry. Mining industry still is pretty male dominated, I would say, but it is improving and it is changing. A lot of companies are now actively participating in recruiting a lot more female workforce. And I don't know, in Sri Lanka specifically, mining isn't that big. Well, mining isn't big at all, I think, to what we have in Australia.
Yeah.
It's not, and I think as an engineer, I think you're not in the frontline workforce, right? You're in the technical side of things, which I don't see you experiencing any sort of discrimination or any sort of uncomfortable situation being an engineer in the mining industry. Um, it's definitely hard on everyone. I think just the lifestyle of it can be hard on everyone, but I don't think it's specifically hard on a girl, if that's what you're asking. But can is it easy for a girl to adopt? I don't think it's specifically hard for it's not a
Gender based.
yeah, I think it's normal for everyone. I think it's a bit of a challenge for everyone to adopt. Um I don't think gender has anything to do with it, but yeah, it's a different lifestyle. It's not for everyone, definitely. But if you have the energy, the passion for it, I think it's something worth pursuing. It can be very rewarding. Um, is it too hard for a girl? Nothing is too hard for a girl. So yeah. I guess that's me answering the questions. Have you got any thoughts, Shanali?
No, I agree. I mean, the fact that, like, obviously this person didn't mean it in any bad
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
but the
yeah.
fact that we have to kind of make we have to distinguish between it being hard for a girl and for like a male and a female
Yeah.
is, that sucks. But
Yeah.
like you say,
But no, it's a very it's same as every other industry,
Yeah.
at least from my experience,
Yeah.
from what I've experienced. But I do understand everyone has different experiences, and it might not be the case in Sri Lanka. But in the work sort of experience I've had in Australia, nothing out of I haven't had any bad experiences.
and
So
I
if
think
you're
it's
looking
it's
to
up to the to the company to ensure that it is comfortable
Yeah.
enough for everyone, not just
Yeah.
males or females. It's for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And also having that right attitude is it's something you could also work on, having that flexible attitude and having the willingness to learn and grow. When somebody's trying to teach you something, it's not because they don't think you're competent or because you're a female or anything like that. It's simply someone trying to teach you so you can learn and grow within the company. So I think a lot of people sometimes tend to, sometimes people always, some people, I think victimizing yourself is not the right attitude to have, is what I would say. But not giving that, not focusing on whether someone's discriminating against you, or like always having that sort of thought process is not gonna do you any good, I would say. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I hope I
points.
answered your questions, but happy to answer more specific questions about
Yeah.
this. So yeah, you can always reach out to us on our socials. But yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
yeah, cool. And yeah, cut. Yep. So another question we've got is, are you going to have any guests on your podcast?
Yeah, that is actually something that we've been talking about for a few
Yeah.
weeks now. We are definitely going to have guests, and that's something we're really looking forward to. We have spoken to a few
Yeah.
people, and it's in the pipeline. We're just trying to organize timings, and
Yeah.
these people are very busy people. So we're trying
Yeah.
to just organize our timings with them. But we're trying to bring in people who we think could contribute to the show as well as to your mindset.
Yeah. Add value.
Yeah, add value. So that's why we are really focusing on that. But definitely, it's going to happen very soon.
Yeah. I'm excited for that.
I know,
actually.
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dash, initially, she addressed a question that was addressed to her. Now I got a specific question addressed to me, just about my career and about my like teaching and everything. So I don't have the question in front of me, but I'll just tell you the gist of it. But it was basically, this girl is also a graduate teacher in Brisbane, and she said, she heard me talk about workload and how difficult, day to day things are as a teacher, and she believes firmly that you shouldn't be bringing work home, and what are my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think for the whole teaching industry, like at the moment, there's a massive shortage of teachers.
Yep.
And one of the biggest reasons is workload. So a lot of teachers tend to leave because the workload is unmanageable and they just don't have enough time or resources to, get their work done. So I'll tell you like about my experience. So I think I mentioned this before, but I studied secondary teaching. So I technically should be a secondary teacher, which is like high school. But then I just fell into special ed and I just continued to stay there. And there was a reason for it that I did stay. So personally, I found that in special ed, the workload is a lot less than in mainstream. And yeah, that can surprise a few people because you think it would be more, but for me personally, I found it less because I only have like 4 kids in my class, whereas in a normal class you would have like 25, 30 kids, and the fact that you have to do like in that sense it is less work. But when it comes to other things like behaviors, obviously behaviors are much higher in special schools, but then the support is also higher in special schools. So I firmly believe that you shouldn't be bringing work home because you get paid at work to perform those duties at work and then come home. But unfortunately, teaching is not one of those things that you can go to school at 9 o'clock and finish at 3 and come home. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, they tend to think that, teachers have all these holidays and they finish work at 3 and they get to come home and chill. That's honestly not the case for a lot of people.
Because you're dealing with actual human beings, right?
Yeah, and like while you are in class, you have to give them your full undivided
100%.
attention. You can't do any of the prep work while you're doing that. So in Queensland, we get this thing called non-contact time. Other states also do it, but the time varies depending on the state. And Queensland's actually one of the states that has the lowest non-contact time. So we get only 2.5 hours a week. And I, as a graduate, I get an extra hour. So it's really not that much. Like 3.5 hours a week to prep is not a lot. And especially if you're in like mainstream primary, you have to teach all the subjects and create all the resources. And that is a
Gosh,
lot
that
of
must be
time.
exhausting.
Yeah. So this girl,
Yeah.
she said she was an early childhood teacher. So obviously she has like a massive workload as well.
Yeah.
So I think if I could give you some tips, I think you need to know to draw boundaries. I think that is really important, especially as a
Yeah.
graduate, because in our industry, a lot of people leave the industry in 5 years, which is like you're still
Mm.
quite fresh, you know, and for them to leave the industry in 5 years shows that there is a problem. There's a major problem, and that's
Yeah.
what a lot of these bodies like the education department and unions, they're trying to address it, but unfortunately like not a lot has happened so far. But so me basically I get to work at 7:30, 7:40 every day, and I know people who come to school at like 6 o'clock, and I'm not willing to do that because in the morning
Yeah.
that's like my gym time, my morning time to get my
Yeah.
mind ready for the day, you know. So I get to work at 7:30 until like 8:30, 8:40. I just blast out anything I can get done. And because I'm in special ed, I'm in a very good position where I don't have to have a lot of prep done, because in
Yeah.
special education our main focuses are communication, social, like social skills, that kind of thing, play.
Yeah.
It's a lot of play based learning. So
Hmm.
even if I get to school and I don't have like this big job prepared, even the kids coloring is still considered learning, because
Yeah.
that's them learning to do something with their peers, learning to communicate, learning to ask for what they
Yeah.
want. So if I have the basics put in place, where if I have, because some of my kids are nonverbal, they can't talk. So if I have their devices set up, or like boards where they can communicate on, if I have all that set up and like a little job, something like painting or something, and they're still able to talk to me using that, that is still considered learning for them. So that's what I really,
Right.
really love about special ed, and I like fully
Mm.
plan on staying in the industry at least for the foreseeable future, is because of that. But then also we have other things that we have to deal with, which is like behavior. So that takes up a lot of
Yeah,
our
that's
time.
right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that takes up a lot of our time, and the good thing is that school is aware of it, and their expectations are kind of shaped around that. Whereas if you were in mainstream and you were kind of doing the same thing, then their
Mm.
expectations would be different, you know. So I think I'm in a very privileged position to do that. But also I
Yeah.
clock off at 3 o'clock, and when I come home, like that's it, I'm done. If I do have like a little thing to do, I will set myself 30 minutes and I will get it done in that time, and that's it. Like if it can't be done, it
Mm.
can't be done. I'm only human, and you know it's about making like
Yeah.
prioritizing, you know. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, that is, those are my tips of getting things done. And also use resources, like we have this website called Twinkle, which is like Australian teachers basically develop resources that other people can buy off that. And then there's like
Oh,
teachers pay
nice.
teachers, like websites like that. If you wanted to message me, I'm happy to give you like some of my resources. I follow a lot of like teachers on social media, on Instagram, and I learn a lot of tips from them as well.
Right.
So, you know, use those things to your advantage. Use Chat GPT. Like, honestly, I freaking love Chat GPT. I use it for everything, to write lesson plans,
Mm.
everything. Use those resources and just be
Yeah.
kind to yourself. I think that's really important, that if you can't get it done within a certain amount of time, that's okay. You know,
That's not the end of the
it's
world.
not the end of the
Yeah.
world. And as a graduate, you are kind of given a little bit of leeway depending on the school you're at, because they kind of understand that you're, because it does get easier as you go
Yeah.
on. It does get easier. You
Yeah.
get, you like, you adapt, you learn new skills, and schools usually understand that. If you have a really good admin
Mm.
team, they really understand that. So be kind to yourself, because most times their expectations of you are way lower than the expectations you have set on yourself. And you are
Yeah.
just like trying to achieve the sun and the moon and the stars, whereas they just want you to just be among the clouds. Like, so just be
Exactly.
kind to
Yeah.
yourself. I think that's really important. But like I said,
Yeah.
if you do want to have a further chat, my inbox is open. So
Yeah.
please message me.
But I also want to ask you, I think it's a bit tricky in your industry, whereas like it's not just you're working with actual living human beings, you're providing that service, but when those when your students aren't achieving what they need to be achieving, and do you kind of feel bad about yourself as if like you're not doing enough, or is this a reflection of like the amount of effort you put in, or how do you deal with that, and how do you not think about it when you're home, or how your kids are doing, sorry, your students are doing, so how do you that emotional sort of what do you call that, barrier or boundary or that separation from work, how do you deal with that?
I think for me, that was probably the hardest part, especially because at the moment I'm in a school which is there's a lot of trauma. So a lot of my kids don't have stable
Right.
homes. Like this area, there's a lot of drugs and alcohol, and some kids come to school without food. And so and especially like I'm a very emotional person, so I tend to get really invested in those kind. There have been times that I have stayed up thinking about the kids, and if they're eating, or are they sleeping, are they having a safe home. And a lot of the times their behavior is a reflection of what their home life is. So
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
struggled with that. But again, it's really important to have those conversations with your peers as well. So I have a
yeah.
buddy teacher who like I work very closely with, and she and I, like, she's been in the industry for like 19 or 20 years. So
Oh
she's obviously
wow.
much more senior, and she and I have conversations, and we are able to debrief, and she kind of helps me mold my mindset around that.
Mm.
And in terms of achievement, again, it depends because I'm in a special school. The achievement standards or expectations for our schools are different to mainstream. So our kids being able to count to like 100 is not a goal, because those are not what we want from them for our kids, because they're autistic, they have ADHD, they have intellectual impairments. That's the biggest thing to enter into a special school, is that they're intellectually lower than their peers.
Mm.
um, so obviously for them, their goals are being able to ask for things without having a tantrum, or being able to go into society and be a functioning adult without
Yeah.
their intellectual impairment or their autism kind of getting too much in the way. So those are our goals, and we
Mm.
just put strategies in place to ensure that their lives are a little bit easier in that sense. So that's why we have like
Yeah.
communication devices and stuff, and we teach them to use those. So on Friday, like, I'll give you a little example. One of my boys, he's he's this thing there's this certain learning technique called interactive intensive interaction, where he's non he's non-verbal to an extent where he can't ask for things that he wants, but he's echolalic. So he can, if I say something to him or if I sing a song, he will sing it back to me. But he doesn't, yeah. Or like he listens to a song, like he repeats Hickory Dickory Dock, like he loves to sing that song. So he sings it because he's heard it, but then it doesn't really register in the same way that it would register for us. So we are trying
But
to,
does he understand the meaning?
we don't know that exactly,
Okay.
because he doesn't show that he understands it. He's also autistic, he's level 3 autistic. So he's intensive interaction, where if you want to do something with him, you have to get down to his level. He works on his own a lot, like he plays on his own, he paints on his own, like he's very much by himself. So if you want to like teach him or get down to his level, you literally sit down on the floor with him, and you are one on one with him.
Mm.
So like you interact with him quite intensively. So that's his learning technique. So the other
Right.
day he was painting, and he kept like ripping paper while painting, because he would just soak up the whole paper with paint, and he was ripping it, and then he kept asking for more paper. And then he
Mm.
would come up to me. He basically sees me as a tool to get something that he wants, not so much like as a
Mm.
person, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So he came to me and he was like using my hand to like take paper. And then I was like, say paper, please, paper, please. I was trying to get him to say paper, please, paper,
Mm.
please. And then he just looked at me and he went, paper. And the joy that I felt in that moment, like I can't even describe it to you. Me and my teacher, Rain, we were celebrating. We were so happy. The two of us just started jumping up and down. Like, and this kid
Yeah.
is like, I just wanted paper, man. Like,
Uh,
but we were so
Just get me my paper,
yeah,
dude.
like what are you celebrating for? Just give me my paper. So like something so minor is such a massive achievement for us, you know. So that's what I like
Yeah.
really love about this industry and these schools. It's just the littlest things that they do. Like even them saying please is such an achievement for us.
Amen, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why
Yeah.
it's very different to mainstream, you know. So
Yeah, exactly. I think that the advice would be to always not to be too hard on yourself and to always remember that you're just human and there's
Yeah.
limitations that come with it.
Yeah.
We all wish we were Superman and Superwomen, but we're not. But and it's all okay to sometimes take a step back and, you know, take some time to yourself.
And also find someone
yeah.
that you can debrief with. Like find
Yeah, a good mentor.
Yeah, schools do actually assign mentors to you. If they haven't as a graduate, you definitely are owed that. So definitely talk about that. And also know your rights. I think that's really important as a graduate as well, because sometimes we go in like being like, oh, you know, we need to show this, like, you know, the admin team that we are so good, like we are on top of these
Yeah.
things. But we also need to know our rights, like our non-contact time is illegal if they don't give it to you. So you need to make sure that you
Yeah.
get that time, you get your mentor, and, you know, debrief, make friends within school, because trust me, everyone is going through the same thing. Like everyone has the same problems, and you feel a lot better if you know that other people are also going through the same thing. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And sometimes I think as fresh graduates, sometimes like one thing I was like quite frustrated as is like when like everyone around me is like seems to like have it,
Together.
you know, have it all or like to get like have their shit together and they're
Yeah.
so good at what they do, but I'm not, I'm struggling, and that used to frustrate me. But one thing I, you know, eventually understood is that they're good because they've done this 1,000 times.
Exactly.
It's the
Yeah.
experience. You're not gonna get it like this because you're a graduate.
Yeah.
You will do like it'll take some time for you to get there, and that's time is the only solution to
Yeah,
that, to just keep
100%.
doing what you're
Yeah.
doing a million times, then
Yeah.
you're gonna get better.
Yeah, and if you know you are
Something
doing
that
your
yeah.
best, like you know you're giving your
Yeah,
100%, after that, what more can you do, right?
exactly. You just need to try.
Yeah.
That's sometimes
Yeah.
that's all you need, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's all your that's all you that's expected from you, just to
yeah.
try.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helped you. But yeah, of course, I think you can reach out to Shanali anytime if you
Absolutely.
have any
Yeah,
other questions.
definitely.
Yeah, cool. And we've also got another questions on a bit of a serious note, actually. It's a bit of a chunky questions. It has two parts, so
Ooh.
wait for it. It's okay. So now that you both live and breathe the Australian life, what are the top three things you would adopt from Australia to Lanka if you had the limitless political and financial power to do so, be it societal, economical, political, cultural, or whatever? Secondly, how much do you actually let's answer the first question
one,
very
okay.
briefly, I guess. I mean, they're asking us to mention three things, but because it's already been 1.5 hours, we'll just quickly brush through it. But what
Yeah.
about you, Shanali? What do you want to change?
I think, I mean, working in the industry I'm working in now,
Okay.
I would really, really love to see the same kind of opportunities that my students are given in Australia. Kids in Sri Lanka with special needs are also given that level of support and opportunity. Because I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, when we were living there, I don't know anyone who got the same or even close to the kind of support that kids in Australia or parents in Australia with kids of special needs got. And I
Yeah.
would love to see that. And it's something I think I will definitely
Mm.
later on in my life, once I've got some experience, I would love to go back home and try and do something for the kids there, because I think that is my moral obligation.
Mm.
So yeah, if I had all the political power and the I mean, because we all know political power in Sri Lanka is the only way
Yeah.
you get things done, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I had that opportunity, I think that is definitely the first thing I would do.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think education is where you should start. I think
Mm,
education is the key to any successful growth of any
yeah,
country.
absolutely.
I think one thing that I would, and I think I very much um, would like to celebrate, and I adore how we've still got free education in Sri Lanka.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Um, but I think I don't know how the dynamics of this or the logistics of this how they will work, but I would really much like to maintain like have that free education until I think or at least until you finish school. But in terms of higher education, I don't know if we need free education. I don't know, maybe this might be very controversial, but I think the situation in Australia is like nothing's free, right? Not education
Mm,
is not free, nothing. But you at the same time you do get government funding or like a government loan to
mm,
study whatever you want to study. And that
exactly.
has given a lot of students the freedom to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And that has given the country to, the financial support for the country to develop those various different industries, various different areas.
True.
And I think Sri Lanka could benefit from it. I'm not saying
Definitely.
we should get rid of free education, but I would think having more independence for students to study what they want to do, what they're good
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
I think that could benefit Sri Lanka from, and it could benefit us in many ways. It could
Mm,
get rid of this occupational prestige
prestige for sure.
or like
Yeah.
this division among the
Mm,
society. Like if you're the respect that comes with your job, I think
yeah.
that could we
Absolutely.
can all benefit
Yeah.
from not having it.
Yeah. I think
And
a
I
lot of the
think
times kids go to like university in Sri Lanka to find a well-paying job, and that is like their main thing, like
and the
it's
respect and the
yeah,
prestige that come
exactly.
with
It's
it,
not
which
about
I
doing something you love.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't need to be a doctor to be respected in a certain way. You could be a
Absolutely.
professional cleaner.
Yeah.
You could be a barista and a hospitality worker, and you deserve to be respected in
Mm,
the same way. And I
absolutely.
think
Yeah.
there's a lot of discipline and a lot of. I think as a society we could
Yeah.
grow a lot
100%.
more without that division that comes with the occupation. That's
I agree.
something
Yeah.
I would change, but yeah, I mean, and I think I would probably, if I had all the political power, I
Mm.
would probably make it the bare minimum to have like a university degree to be elected to the parliament.
Oh,
That's what I would do. I think.
1000%. I mean, for
Yeah.
anyone listening from here, you might be like, what do you mean? Like, isn't that already
Yeah.
a thing? But no, no, sweetie, it's not.
Unfortunately, that's not the bare minimum in Sri
If you
Lanka.
can
Yeah,
count to 10, you can be in parliament.
exactly. But I think the idea behind that is that all we like the idea behind that is to get all the representation, like to represent the
Mm,
full country within the
absolutely.
parliament.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not what's been done now. So I think that will be the number one thing. So hopefully that answered that question. And the second question was, so the second part of that question
Mm.
was, secondly, how much do you both earn in your respective industries? I'm the first to admit that the latter is not the most polite question, so feel free to ignore or be as vague or specific as you want. Okay, are you comfortable with answering that
Yes,
question?
I am comfortable
Yeah.
with answering that, because I've said it before. I work in a government school, so I basically am a government, like a public servant technically. So
Yeah.
our salary, like teaching salaries, are all online on the website. So
Yep.
our graduate salaries start from 81,000,
Mm.
And which is obviously I'm a graduate, so I'm in that range. And because I work in special schools, they you get like a
Mm.
little bit of an allowance every week, so
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
little bit more than that. And then every year it goes up. So I think
Yeah.
from 81 it jumps to like 85 or something like that. But every
Okay.
year
Yep.
until you come to like 10 years, it keeps going up. And then
Yeah.
after that you can work on becoming like a highly accomplished teacher, and that gives you like several thousands of dollars more. And then if you become a
Yeah.
principal, it's more than that. But every few years we get a salary increase, because like the unions fight for us with cost of living and everything,
Yeah.
so it keeps going up every year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Does the amount change a lot between a private school teacher and a government teacher?
Actually, from what I've, because I've done placements in Catholic education, which is like private but not as
Yeah.
expensive as like independent schools. Independent schools are more expensive. Um, what I've heard is Catholic schools and the state schools are the same. They are similar.
Same?
They kind of follow the same kind of wage scale, whereas independent schools set um, their
Mm.
own kind of wage. But surprisingly, it's actually, I mean, in my personal opinion, it's actually better to work for a state school, because state schools pay better. You'd be surprised
Yeah.
because you think private schools will pay better.
Mm.
And the fact that there are unions involved means that
Yeah,
you are
right.
more likely to get like your what's the word? But like
The other
things,
benefits.
benefits, yeah, that's the word,
Yeah.
gosh, benefits from that.
Mm.
Whereas in working in an independent school it could be different. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um uh to answer my question, so I'm also a graduate electrical engineer but working in the mining industry. I think being a graduate electrical engineer, the wage sort of differs from the industry that you work in. So I'm sure everyone knows the industry wage is a little bit more different when it comes to mining and oil and gas,
Okay.
because they tend to pay a little bit more, because I think it's more to compensate of the lifestyle that
Right.
you're
Okay.
bringing into that work environment. You're away from your family, and you have different work arrangements. You constantly travel a lot, so to compensate that, I think that they tend to pay a lot more.
Mm.
But I think if you want to find one tip and trick I would suggest, for because I love when in online platforms, when people become so transparent with
Yeah.
with how much they earn with their industries. I think that's like that would have been so beneficial to me
Mm.
when I was a student. If I had
Absolutely.
that, it would
Mm.
be like quite beneficial to me when choosing what industry I want to work in
Yeah.
and what I want to do. One thing that I would suggest is there's a platform called Glassdoor
Yeah.
that has pretty much all the companies on all and almost all sorts of job roles there, with the pay, the company culture, the pros and cons of working for that particular company. um, but I think for a graduate electrical engineer, you're in a graduate program, so you get a set salary. And you can find. I've also like put my salary down there in the Glassdoor app. So if you'd
Mm.
like to know, I would encourage you to go there and see for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And I
But
think like
yeah,
again in Sri Lanka, we were talking about getting respect for certain occupations. Like it depends
yeah,
a lot on how much you earn and all that kind of thing. And if people were given paid the right wage, then
yeah,
a lot of those mindsets would change. But for them to get paid the right wage, then we also need to be transparent with those kind of
yeah,
wages. So
exactly.
because
Yeah.
then like it sucks that we judge people based on how much they earn. It really truly
Mm,
sucks. But then
mm.
when we are aware of how much, like, or level of what people are paid at, then we like can give everyone the respect that they deserve.
Yeah, and
And
for the amount of work they do, not for how much they earn, and for
mm,
the service, the value they add to the society.
yeah,
That's the only thing.
yeah.
Um, and I think, like you said, I wonder, like when you were working in Sri Lanka, did you get a pay increase every year,
I
or
didn't work for
is
long enough in Sri Lanka to know
ah
that,
okay.
but I would like to say, again, talking about transparency and everything, I'm not going to obviously mention the company that I worked for in Sri Lanka, but this specific company, I was working in like marketing in like the IT sector, and they kind of really wanted me to come to join their team. So they just, and I had three offers. I remember that three. Yeah, that's a three. I was like, am I showing three things? This podcast has gone on for so long. I think I'm
So
getting a bit
long, I
like,
just can't
I
even.
know my brain is just like not functioning. But yeah, I had three offers. So I was trying to weigh the pros and cons between the three. And I was kind of trying to negotiate. I was like, well, this one job is offering me this much. Like, maybe are you going to offer me that much? And I was kind of doing
Yeah.
that. And I got offered
Yeah.
the amount that I wanted. And
Yeah.
then I was having a conversation with someone at work who was in my same position. And I got to know that she was getting paid half of what I was getting paid. And I think she
It's
was
definitely a
told,
skill to have that
yeah.
negotiation and all of
And
that.
then
And
I,
depends on the skill that you like, the skills and the value you bring to
you
that
bring,
company.
yeah. And then I
Yeah.
was really upset by that because I was like, we are literally doing the same exact thing. The only thing is that she didn't really have a degree. And honestly, I don't think me having a degree contributed at all because I didn't even use my
Yeah.
degree for what I was doing.
I
So,
understand. Like it depends on the actual. Like I think in that particular field, I don't
no,
think that's
I
fair
know what you mean.
either.
Like, if you have the like technical skills, definitely, like a degree
Yeah,
would be helpful. But in this case,
yeah,
it was just like a sales kind of role. So I don't
yeah.
think that
But
it helped.
I it depends on the industry definitely because in some industries you need that license. There's a
Yeah,
sort
for sure.
certain license that you get
Yeah,
with your degree.
yeah.
So in that industries I can see why if someone was still capable of doing your job but they don't have that license, then you
Definitely.
can't.
Yeah.
It's a strategy, right?
Mm.
But yeah, I do know that your salary, so you get a pay increase every year in Australia depending on how the company
Is
performs
doing.
and all of
Yeah.
that. And do you also get bonuses as teachers?
No. No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we get 12 weeks of leave
Oh,
a
that's
year.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
We get like annual leave loading, which is like 17.5%, I think, loading.
Okay, cool.
So like I personally don't think we need more than that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Cool.
Mm.
Okay, this podcast has been going on for
I
way
know. I had
too
to put my
long,
hair
so
up as well because it was just stressing me out. It just gone on
yeah,
forever.
this could be like we could literally cut this into 2 episodes, but we're not gonna do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not.
But yeah. So finishing off with one last question.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a good question,
okay.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's quite interesting. Um, what would you prefer, having a super rich life in Sri Lanka or having a normal work life in Australia, Shanali?
I think we can link this to another question that we got. Someone had asked, do we feel homesick?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I personally can link it to this question because I'll be very honest, I am homesick. I've been pretty much homesick ever since I came back from my trip last year to Sri Lanka. Like, I don't think I recovered from that trip. I've been like literally listening to like my Sinhala playlist every single day, looking through my videos, my pictures, everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
I am quite homesick. And I have fantasized on this question in terms of
Right.
if I was really, really rich, like would I move back home?
Yeah.
And I think me at this point, the Shanali at this point, I would.
2024 Shanali, you would.
2024
Okay.
in March, I would. If I had, but then it comes with a lot of other things. Like if I have to have complete financial independence where I'm not going to second guess. Like if I go back home, I don't want to be working for money,
Yeah.
I would work because like I said, if I was to
You
do
would do something you enjoy
that I'm
for
passionate
work.
about, like working with kids
Yeah.
with special needs, but I have to have complete financial independence to not make that decision all about money. Like if I win the lotto or something. Absolutely. And I've told this to Ryan as
Mm.
well. I would definitely move back home if that was the case. But
Mm.
also obviously have um the pathway to come back. Like if we had, like all the permanent residency, citizenship, whatever,
Right. Yeah.
that kind of thing, a house, whatever.
Like a
Like
fallback strategy.
exactly.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah. Yeah.
all that in place, then I would definitely move back home
Yeah.
over having like a basic like life in Australia where, and I say this because all like most of my loved ones are in Sri Lanka.
Mm.
That is why I say that. If I
Yeah.
didn't have anyone there at all, then
Yeah.
maybe the case would be different. But because
Yeah.
everyone close to my heart is in Sri Lanka,
Yeah. Yeah.
at this moment I can very confidently say that I would move back if I
Mm.
had all the other things in place and finances were not a problem at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Interesting. It's definitely tough,
Mm.
but I think I'm going to choose the other option,
Oh,
having
okay.
a normal work life in Australia. But I do definitely agree with what you say, Sri Lanka. Like I'm homesick. There's definitely because family is everything, and we've
Mm.
still got our family in Sri Lanka. So that's something that I would. That is something that would push me over the edge to the other side.
Mm.
But I think when I think back, I know they mentioned having a super rich lifestyle
Mm.
in Sri Lanka, and I don't think financials is the case that's gonna. It's not something. It's just the standard of living
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah. True, true.
what's gonna be
Mm.
the case for me here. It's just that if I were to live in Sri Lanka, regardless of whether I'm rich or not, it's
Mm.
just I don't see myself getting back what I put in.
Mm.
um, as for the situation at the moment,
Mm.
I'd rather, I think that's that's why I chose the other one, because even if you have an ordinary life, very basic life in
Mm.
Australia, you can put in your 200, 300% and get that 300% back,
Mm.
and then maybe get your parents to move here.
Yep.
And mind you, a lot of my friends, I think this would have been different if I still had a lot of my friends in Sri Lanka,
Mm.
but at the moment a lot of my friends are in Australia,
Right.
so
Yeah.
they're over here.
Yeah.
And a lot of our family is scattered all over the world as
Mm.
well now.
Mm.
So I think that is why I would choose, and I like the independence that
Mm.
Australia has given
Yeah.
me, and the relationships I've built here, and the ease of life. I think I don't need a lot of money to be a lot more happy here.
Comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the standard of living
Mm.
so much more higher
Yeah.
here is what I enjoy, and the amount of confidence it's given me,
Mm.
the life that I've built,
Mm.
and it's something that I've built from scratch, and
Mm.
it's what I can call mine,
Mm.
and I can be 100% proud of it.
Yeah.
Because I've done it. I've done all the hard work. I've done all the dirty work. So that's something, and I think a lot of what I am today is because of is a result of me being here by myself.
Yeah.
So I love the person I have become
Yeah.
because of that. So I think that's why I would choose it.
Yeah.
But I do want to. It is a strict call, because yeah, I still like every time you go, like I visit Sri Lanka, and when I'm ready to come back, I cry and I don't want to
know.
leave. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to go, but then, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just if I were to do it, like if I were to settle down in Sri Lanka, I don't think I would have the same feeling about Sri Lanka that I'm having now.
That's
You know what
see,
I
this is the
mean?
thing. This is what Ryan keeps
Yeah.
telling me. He's like, you are looking at Sri Lanka in a tourist's eye because
Yeah.
you went and you had a really good time. But when you're living there, it's not going to be the
Exactly.
same. And it's true. I
Yeah,
agree.
it's something that you're gonna it's not something you can indulge in.
Yeah.
It's not it's not a, what do you say, it's not a treat anymore if
No.
you're there all the time.
Yeah,
Then yeah,
true.
I guess.
But yeah, it's not a black and white question, It's like a very gray area. It depends on so many factors. But I think for me, the main thing is having like all my family. A lot of my friends are still in Sri Lanka, like a lot of my close friends.
Yeah.
And the rest are in Melbourne. So,
Yeah.
like, I feel maybe if I lived in Melbourne, I feel like maybe my thought process would be different. I'm not sure. But as of now, yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I guess that answers that question. And yeah, it's been a very long episode, but I
Yeah.
think we covered a lot of
A lot.
interesting,
Yeah.
fun questions.
And we're sorry if
And
we didn't
thank,
answer your question. We'll definitely have another Q&A episode later on,
yeah,
and then we'll keep these
yeah.
questions for then.
And if we haven't answered any of your questions, that means that's because we want to discuss those questions a lot
In
more detail in
detail. Yeah.
in a whole different episode.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for everyone for sending us your questions. As you can see, they've been very fun and also like I think stimulating for us to
Yeah.
actually
It's
it
it's
makes
been
us
an
think about
emotional
things
roller
differently.
coaster, hasn't it? Like we've been
Yeah,
happy
it
and
has.
sad and angry
And
and all
angry.
over the place. I love it. I think this is
Yeah.
one of my favorite episodes that we've done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really amazing to engage with the audience and the listeners. Yeah, but yeah, keep on commenting and keep on sharing and reacting and interacting with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. And hopefully we'll see you again in the
Yes.
next episode.
I'll see you in a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
See
Take
ya.
care, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye.